Um, you
I'm
know,
glad you told me that.
a cuss word here and there, as long as it comes with, as long as it's funny, I
It's
think
coming
it's
from love.
coming from
Yeah.
love. All right, guys, this is one of my best friends at the office. I love Kim Hutchens. Her and I didn't like each other at all at the very beginning, right? No, she didn't like me one bit.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
But we've warmed up to each other, and I have a ton of ton of respect for you. Um, Kim has been at our office for what, 8 or 9 years or so?
Uh, 9 going on 10.
9 going on 10. Okay. And were you other places before KW or no?
For 1 month, I was with a small boutique uh, firm.
Okay,
I was,
cool. So you came to KW, and with the exception of that 1 month, that's what you know, right?
I've interviewed with other places,
I
so I
bet
do
you have.
know.
I'm sure you get
I
I'm
do
sure
know
you
a
get
little
calls all the
bit.
time. That's our responsibility, by the way. So just as a side note, like our jobs as real estate agents is to be great, attractive business people. And great, attractive business people are attractive to other opportunities. So there's no shame in seeking out opportunities. Our job at KW is to make sure that we deliver enough value that you choose to stay, right?
Correct.
I always say I'm not loyal to Keller Williams. I'm loyal to quality of life. If there is a better opportunity for me and for my family, then I might consider taking it, right? But after 10 plus years, I don't, it hasn't happened yet. And they're going to have to be, it's going to have to be a hell of an opportunity. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay. So Kim, you have been a buyer's agent, a solo agent. You've had an assistant, you've had showing support, all kinds of stuff. So I want to touch on a lot of these concepts today. Um, Kim, I'm going to give you a tiny bit of an introduction, and then I want you to share some of the things I might have missed. Um, Kim has served on our Agent Leadership Council, I think 3 or 4 years. Is that right?
4. Yep.
Something like that?
4. At least 4.
At least 4. So we've served on the Agent Leadership Council together for many times. She currently is, I want to make sure I use the appropriate word. She is
Get it right, Bill.
uh-oh. She leads the social equity, diversity, and inclusion committee on the Agent Leadership Council. And she was last year. She was our Roswell's regional representative for all of the initiatives, the task forces that Keller Williams International was putting together for social equity purposes. Um, did I do
That was
okay there?
close.
Damn. Okay, tell
That was
us.
close. Okay, so I am currently still the Southeast Region Social Equity Task Force Ambassador, and
Beautiful.
I am represent the GLG, and I am currently the Diversity and Inclusion Committee Chair on the ALC.
Beautiful. I think I threw in social equity too. I was trying to give you more accolades.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
so what is that all about? What do you do for what are we trying to accomplish? What tell us a little bit about all of your efforts there.
so I mean, I naturally come from a giving background, right? As far as my career is concerned, I always balance work with giving.
Yeah,
So it's only
I'm gonna ask you some additional questions about that here shortly.
okay. Okay. So if you recall, what was that? 3 years ago.
Oh, our
Um,
fateful meeting.
yes.
Oh yeah,
Well,
we were way before our time.
so
Tell everyone about that.
so okay. So like Bill said, I've been at the office for 9 going on 10 years, and needless to say, there's not a lot of diversity when I got there, and I always had conversations with leadership about why. Um, and I think probably about 3 years ago, it was the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. I asked if we could do a diversity mastermind, um, and it was on the surface met with um, positivity. But underneath that, there was some negativity as to why we needed to do that. What was it for? Why does it have to be called diversity mastermind? And then they also asked that legal sit in on the mastermind. So, so we had the mastermind. Legal sat in on the mastermind. I think everybody got something out of that conversation. Bill, you can, kind of give your input on that. But so that was kind of like our first kind of intro into, diversity, equity, inclusion, and just trying to get a pulse for what was happening in our office to see where we could do a little bit better to make everybody that comes into the office feel a part of the office and feel like they have the opportunities that everybody else has to thrive in that office.
So let me ask you to define a term or two real fast. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, can you explain what is the difference between diversity and inclusion?
So they're all interrelated, right? So diversity just means that people of different ethnic backgrounds, races, religions, sexual orientation, handicaps, whatever makes us different, have representation or voice in an environment. So in this case, it would be our office. Inclusion means that not only do they have representation, but they're actually included in the conversations and included in the opportunities that become available in that environment. So equal access to those opportunities without any type of boundaries that would limit one segment of that diversity kind of pool from any other segment that is not a part of the diversity pool.
Got it.
And then equity just means you want to be on the same playing field. Like you don't have to give us the same, color ball, right? But as long as we get a ball and have a clear path to the finish line, it's equitable. But if you put barriers in place, even if they're seen or unseen, or intrinsic, that limit a person's ability to reach that goal, if that is their goal, then that's when the equity comes into play.
Yeah, I think if I don't usually say stuff like this, but like I think that you primarily and me a little bit were kind of the forerunners for all of this for GLG. There was even last year you were the only Agent Leadership Council person of color. This was a topic that wasn't really covered at all. And what that means is that no one was vocalizing the fact that there was inequalities or inequities, right? And I think the last time we had you in the group was in, I think, June, which is before, some of the what's the word I want to use? The stuff that happened this summer, and Keller Williams' ultimate initiative to change the belief system and to add this chair to the ALC. So I wanted to give you a platform to kind of share a little bit about the organization or the group that you're running, and then if you could just share with us like a little bit about the task force and your committee, just see if anyone if you can share what your plan is, what your the purpose is, what's the mission, and see if we have some people in the room today that might be able to join forces with you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So out of the social unrest and the murder of George Floyd, Gary Keller put out a letter, and there were some undertones that led to that as well, where actually Gary wasn't aware of how agents of color felt that were operating inside of Keller Williams. I'm not sure if anybody on here is familiar with K.W. Brown. So that was already a couple years old, when.
What is K.W. Brown? I think I know what it is, but can you share with the others?
Okay, so K.W. Brown is a collective of probably about 4,000 agents of color that collaborate on a regular basis through Facebook. They do training and education together. They share resources just to kind of give support to agents of color at KW, and can be a collective voice as they were during this time to let Gary Keller know how agents were feeling about what was happening in the world and their desire to have Gary Keller say something, right? Because there was a minute where there was just silence, right?
Yeah.
So out of those conversations, Gary put together that letter that went out to all agents that said, Keller Williams will not stand for racism of any kind or tolerate that within Keller Williams. Any agents caught doing racist activities, promoting racist ideas would, immediately be terminated and license returned. And also that he would put together the social equity task force. That would be a national task force that would come together and discuss how African Americans in Keller Williams can have their voices heard, identify pathways to leadership, identify pathways to wealth building, and identify ways to impact the community positively through home ownership. So those are kind of like the kind of overarching items from a national level. So there was a team leaders nominated representatives for national. Those people were selected, and then from there it trickled down to regional offices. So our regional office, which was led last year by Carol Sidoti, which she's still involved. But so that regional task force for Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama meet once a month, and we are responsible for pushing forward the initiatives that come from national. And then on a local level through GOG, we have our own activities that are relative to our specific office. So we did surveys for Keller Williams Roswell because Roswell is different from Alpharetta, and Alpharetta is different from Chattanooga. So based off of our surveys that we did last year, we are putting together a calendar of events and activities that fit the needs of our office based off those surveys. And so we'll be doing different activities, mostly education, because most of this deals with education, people kind of understanding where people are coming from, people understanding people's different perspectives, understanding cultural norms, cultural biases, just things like that we'll be educating people throughout the year. We also started a book club, which we are currently reading the book Blind Spot. And that is every week for the next 2 more weeks on that book. And we meet on Zoom and talk about, different aspects of the book. Our last book was How to Be Anti-Racist. And I believe, Bill, you participated in that book club.
Yep.
And then just bringing in educators and holding events that identify and celebrate the different cultures that are representative in our office.
If somebody wants to lend you a hand or learn more or participate in any way, I assume they can reach out to you. What else should they know?
Yeah, they can hit me up. And then we also do a monthly mastermind on Zoom as well. And that's usually listed in the newsletter. I think our next one is coming up on February 22nd for Black History Month. I'm sure we'll have some cool stuff to talk about for that. And then if anybody has any ideas or wants to share, this is not a closed group. It is open to anyone that is interested in learning, anyone that is interested in sharing. We all are unique and have our own perspectives on life and experiences. So it's not all one person's perspective. It's a collaborative effort. So definitely let me know if you want to be a part of that.
Cool. I wanted to make sure that you got an opportunity to help us understand some of your efforts and how others can help and participate. I didn't necessarily plan to start with that, so I wanted to give everyone a background of how did you even come into real estate? How did you what have you learned along the way? I want you to give some advice to the group. So first of all, let me just publicly thank you for your efforts. That this is an initiative that needs attention and needs people to help. So I appreciate your efforts. It's been a pleasure getting being involved to some degree, and my intention is to keep doing that and to keep using the productivity group as a platform occasionally to help others understand the work that needs to get done. So with that said, Kim, I want you to help us understand a little bit about your journey. What have you what can you, let me just take a look at kind of who's here. Um, okay, with the exception of Eric, who's been in the business a couple of years, basically everyone else is essentially less than a year in the business. So the goal is for everyone here to leave with a couple of ideas. Number one is that they can make it, right? That this business is possible, that they can create the life they want through a sales business within real estate. And number two, to kind of hear some tips and strategies and learn a little bit more about your journey, so that they can maybe determine if that's something that they want to put their time and effort into. So can you kind of share with us what were some of those early days like? What was on your mind? What did you learn? How did you begin to get productive? What did you do at the beginning? Walk us through some of that.
Okay. Okay, good question. Good question, Bill. So I came out of entertainment and nonprofit background. Um, and actually, I had a real estate degree from the University of Cincinnati. So my background was, my educational background was finance, marketing, and real estate from the University of Cincinnati. So I actually have a bachelor's in real estate. And then I had a master's degree in marketing from Clark Atlanta. So I have always had entrepreneurial vision, right? In 2009, I had my first child. And at that time, I was managing a high profile hip hop group and doing nonprofit work. But at that same time, the market crashed, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, people weren't giving away a lot of money, right, for nonprofit work. And I was pregnant. So some of the things that I was doing as a manager or hip hop group, I decided that wasn't, something that was feasible to raising a young Black boy. So I resigned from those activities and I looked at my background in education and what I, had experience with and decided, hey, you know what? I hadn't used this real estate thing. So let me get licensed in real estate. It'll give me the flexibility to be there for my son as he grows up. And
Hey, how you doing?
I'll shoot my shot.
Yes.
So I got my license. Like I said, I started out at a boutique agency for about a month and I just felt like I wasn't getting enough education or experience. So I interviewed with a couple of brokerages and ended up at Keller Williams Roswell, which was in my area. There was definitely a couple of brokers that were closer to my house that were in Roswell, but ended up at KW. So started out as a solo agent. And like I mentioned, there was not a lot of diversity. So it was a bit isolating in there. But I would come every day. So my goal was to make sure that I showed up to the office every day as a part of my kind of routine to make sure that I was engaged with the office and trying to learn as much as I can. So I would come and, take the classes, et cetera.
It was like me, you, and Marie Burgess in that big room forever.
Yeah. Yeah, because at that time, a lot of people didn't come into the office, right?
Hey.
Yeah. Team meetings were not like they are now. But
Kim, can I
so
ask
that's
you a
what I
question?
did. Yeah. Uh-huh.
What's a boutique agency?
Like a small kind of niche firm, one or two people, and they have like a specialty. So the client, the company that I was with, and she was actually my sponsor to get into real estate. She did community development. So she dealt with CDFI funds, more on the commercial side. And I wanted to do at that time residential to kind of get my feet in the door, feet wet, get in the door. So, and that was an easier way to get in residential than it was for commercial. So commercial deals, and I do commercial deals, but commercial deals take time. Like I literally did a commercial deal last year that took 7 months from start to finish to And then I didn't get paid to the 8th month. So, and I won't get paid the rest to the end of the year. So commercial deals, you structure them the way you want, right? But a lot of times it's not paid at closing. It's pay some portion at closing and then pay the rest over the term of the deal. Just depends on how you negotiate them. So when you do commercial deal, they just take a little bit longer. So I actually don't get my last check for the deal that I closed in December until next December. Yeah, so it's a little different, but it's a 5-year deal and it was a $1.1 million deal as far as volume. So, that's a nice check, but you just don't get it all at once. And I was so mad because it closed in December, which would have added, 1.1 to my volume, but it didn't start paying till January.
Yeah.
So then I only got half of the volume for January for what the payment was. And then now the rest just gets split up every quarter. So anyway, I digress. But thank you for the question. Okay, so then what I was finding, and I'm different. Everybody will do their own way. I did not want to transfer from entertainment to real estate until I felt comfortable knowing real estate, which was, I feel like it was just the way I wanted to do it. Not necessarily a mistake, but I didn't promote myself to my database or people that knew me for entertainment or marketing, because I wanted to learn real estate. That was just my thing. But so I had to build my own clientele, right, as a realtor. So at that time, nobody, Bill, was doing opportunity desk.
Yeah.
Nobody. Nobody was doing opportunity desk. And so I filled up my name for every day of the week, every hour where it was available, opportunity desk.
I should have done opportunity desk. I was too busy showing rentals.
You were doing rentals, yep. So I was doing opportunity desk. And I think maybe 2 or 3 months in, I got my first, contract from opportunity desk, and then I closed it. And you know how Denise used to say, "Hey, anybody close any deals?" And then they were, yeah. She said, "How'd you get the deal?" And my dumb butt said, "Opportunity desk."
And then everyone signed up for opportunity.
And from that point on, opportunity desk has never been empty. Never.
I'm so upset with you for that. It's so hard. Like, I look at the email, and if I wait like 2 minutes,
5 minutes,
it's gone. I'm
gone.
Like,
Blame me, because had I not said that in that team meeting, opportunity desk would still be a secret.
It's still a secret to me. What is that?
Oh.
Okay, so
it's amazing.
So, Bill, you want to explain, or you want me to?
Sure. So once a month, Lucy typically sends out a sign up.
The last Tuesday of the month.
The last Tuesday of the month, Lucy sends out a schedule for the following month, and each business day is divided into 2 sections. One is 9 to 1, and the other is 1 to 5. And agents that have completed Ignite can sign up for a slot, and basically any incoming inquiries, whether they be an online inquiry or a telephone inquiry, or somebody every once in a while walks in, not too often, as long as it is not a agent in our office's listing, then it's assigned to whoever's on opportunity desk at that time. There is no additional referral fee or anything like that that is charged. If the lead does come from, let's say, Donna's listing, then the lead is given to Donna, right? But as long as it's not one of our agents' listings, it's assigned to the person at opportunity desk, and that's just an opportunity for them to, they have a new prospect now, right? They have a new buyer or seller or renter or whoever. I believe the rule now is you can sign up for 2 slots as soon as the form is sent out, and then like maybe after a week or so, if there's any slots still available, then you can sign up for additional slots. Did I do that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay.
And you don't have to be in the office, right? They can forward the calls to you. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, that is correct. With that said, I'm gonna You keep talking, Kim. I'll look for the link and I'll post it here and see if there's any openings for the rest of February. Okay.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. So, so I did, I think six closings my first year, 12 the next year. And what I was finding is that, you know, I wasn't, like I said, tapping into my database for those deals. It was more opportunity desk, just, you know, being available. A lot of people had deals that they didn't want that they were, you know, would give away. I was just basically, I was a bottom feeder. I was taking the scraps pretty much. Um, and then I had a price point that was around 200,000. And I said, I need to get my price point up. And I was taking, like I said, I was taking leads from people that didn't want them. Most of those were rental leads. And then after executing quite a few rental leads from this particular team, they asked me did I want to be a buyer's agent. And they were the top team in the office at the time. I think they were doing like 56 million a year. And I said, well, this could be an opportunity for me to increase my price point from 200,000 to where I wanted to be, more like 350. So I took the opportunity. I negotiated my deal. You know, because sometimes, you know, the team offers don't seem very lucrative, right? If it's whatever the split is. So I negotiated my deal I did mine like two different ways. If it was a lead that they brought me, it was a certain percentage. And then if it was a deal that I brought to them, it was a certain percentage. So they agreed to that. And my price point increased, right? So through them, I did my first $1 million deal. And then I got my price point up to 350. I think in my best year, I did about 7 million with them, volume. And, you know, it just increased each year. But then I got to a point, well, there was two things that happened. I got to a point where I felt like I was bringing in just as many leads as they were giving me. So it wasn't really adding up to me. And then also they were looking at leaving the office and taking the opportunity with another brokerage. So at that point, I decided that it wasn't a move up for me. That would have been like a lateral move. So I decided to stay at Keller Williams. So that means I became a solo agent again. And I basically rebuilt my clientele once I was no longer with that team, because a lot of that high volume dollar amounts, were generated through them. And that's another story that's probably not good for this call on the dynamics of that. However, I have rebuilt my business. Last year was probably one of my
What do you mean?
better years. Huh?
What do you mean?
By a different call?
Yeah, tease us.
Well, when I was on the team, I had a diverse clientele. Okay, before I was on the team, I didn't have a diverse clientele. And then when I came off the team, I didn't have a diverse clientele. So I literally had to rebuild my clientele, except for my base, right? People that I had already sold to. I had to rebuild my clientele. And we can go into that. I don't think we want to do that on this call.
Well,
we don't want to do that on this call.
I know what you're saying. Hopefully
Okay.
everyone else is picking up on what you're trying to say.
Okay.
But this is a conversation that I think you would agree that the market center is by far more diverse than it has ever been.
That is true.
Right. And that is, I'm dancing a little bit too, but that is a conversation that I have pretty much every day with somebody about how do I get to put my price range up, right? How do I work with people that own more expensive homes or have a desire to buy more expensive homes? And can you give us some tips on that? How did you do what you're telling us you did?
So, okay.
Come on now.
Okay, so for me, I had to recreate my clientele, except for my base, right? So what I have found, and I don't want this to be discouraging to anybody, right? Because everybody will have their own experience. I can only speak from my experience. As an African American agent in the suburb of Atlanta, it is a challenge to generate business from people that don't look like me. Okay. That's not to say that I haven't generated business from people that don't look like me, but a lot of times it came with an introduction from somebody that doesn't look like me. So I had to be validated. Okay. And that's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is in certain instances. I had to be validated by somebody that didn't look like me for them to want to do business with me. Right. So when I was on a team, I had a validation of my team leaders, right? So if they were okay doing business with this group and these people up here, then as long as I was affiliated with them, they're okay with doing business with me because they could always go back to the team leader, right? Or the head. That was and they went back a couple times, or a agent go back. So that's a whole nother story. But anyway, so that validation was needed to get those higher price points in some cases, right? So when I left, I had to start over. Like if I wanted to be in that price point, I had to find people that were in that price point that looked like me. Just because a lot of the people that don't necessarily look to do business with me. And it's a hard conversation to have, because as African Americans, we got two sides to the situation. That's a complication. We have, non-African Americans that don't want to do business with us, right? And then we have African Americans that don't want to do business with us after a certain price point, because they feel like at certain price points, white is right, and that's who they want to buy and sell their deals. And in some cases, they might be right? Because the other buyer that's going to come, what's the likelihood of $1 million African American house being sold to $1 million African American buyer? Slim. Okay, so somebody else is bringing that buyer, and then there's all different just kind of nuances that come into play, that our own African American people don't give us the benefit of the doubt for in some instances once it gets to a higher price point. So
I know that.
Anybody got any questions on that? Because then I'll go further. But if y'all get it, then we don't have to go no further on that.
I think that
Yeah,
I get it.
I get it, definitely.
the
Thanks.
I have a
takeaway here.
question.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if it's a question or a statement, but I understand everything it is that you're saying. And as a newer agent, I'm just at a point where I'm getting my feet wet, and I get where it is that you're coming from. But I think that on the other end of that, us as people, if we just take away the color for a second and just look at us as people, you feel comfortable with someone who aligns with who it is that you are. So the same way that I can say that, okay, white people feel better transaction with white people, I can say Black people feel kind of the same way. Well, sometimes, about transacting with someone who looks like them. So is it kind of like we're at the opposite ends of the same story, and it just happens to be that one is Black, the other is white, but it's just a comfort level based on different backgrounds. And I think now it's just like I would love to sell to people in a higher price point, but in order for me to be great at what it is that I'm going to do, I have to be comfortable in my skin, knowing that even if that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen the way that I see it in my mind, that at some point it will happen regardless of whether they white, Black, whatever the case may be, because there's always going to be some type of injustice. But if I keep my focal point solely on that, then I'm going to be wrapped up in something that I can't necessarily change. So it's just like, even though that's the elephant in the room, I got to
And
blur
you have
that
to
out.
do that. And you have to do that. And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying you have to. I've willed my way into deals. I've tricked my way into deals. I've willed my way into deals. I've tricked my way into deals. I've willed my way into deals when I just was relentless enough to not let them actually get the chance to think about what was happening, right? And I was so information or data driven that they couldn't deny me, right? So that's one way. If it was a situation where I felt like they might not feel comfortable working with me, I asked a white agent to co-broker with me. And I did it that way. And we got the deal closed. I did all the work. I knew I didn't need her to do the work. I just needed her to get the deal. So I've done it that way. The difference between what you're saying, Ebony, and what happens, not all the time, but just certain times, is African Americans that get into a certain price point, that do deals a certain type of way, at some point they're either one, I don't care who does a deal, right? But I'm not gonna be intentional and make sure that this African American getting this check. Or they feel, if I'm gonna get this house, I probably need somebody that looks like them to be able to get it. And so that's who I'm gonna go with. Different other price points, it may not be that way, but I'm just saying, and I've experienced it and I've seen it, as the higher the price goes up, there can be a tendency to not intentionally be proactive and use an African American agent intentionally.
Yeah.
So that's just from my experience.
I think that one of the takeaways here is that this is really complex, right? There is a lot of stuff that's going on in the minds of the agents, in the minds of the brokers, in the minds of the prospects. And look, these are the facts. Like, these are real stories that are happening to our agents, and these are real opportunities that are secured or not secured because of just the way it is. So when I sat in that session 3 or 4 years ago that we were talking about, I heard things that I never thought even existed, right? So I know that this is a challenging conversation for all of us to have, and I want to, I want to be transparent about that. We need to have these conversations because we need to empower those that are feeling disadvantaged to some degree. Rightfully so. We need to equip them with the right mindset or the right set of activities to try to make the best of it. Right?
Yeah, and I'll say this: you can be successful as an African American realtor anywhere you want to be successful at, right? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there are things that you have to navigate that are unique to you. Okay, so keep that in mind. And I mean, it's just like everyday life, right? We are in some challenging times, right? More hostility than ever before, right? So that brings on a whole nother challenge, right? Being a realtor while Black. So it's like, so we can navigate that stuff, and you can be successful, and you can make money, and you can, provide for your family. But it takes strategy, consistency, and resiliency.
Can you share with us, Kim, maybe an example or two of strategy, resilience, and what was the third one you said?
Consistency.
Consistency that you have used successfully, because you have, I think it is, how do I want to say this? There's kind of two issues. One is there evidence of diversity at the office? And secondly, is there diversity of success at the office, right? Like, for example, are people of color, are they equally represented on teams? Are they equally represented in the top 20, right?
No.
Okay, so
Okay.
I think it's fair to say that you are in rare air a little bit, right? So how have you figured that out? How have you been as successful as you've been?
Okay, so to answer your question, as of last year, I believe I'm the only African American in the top 20%. Hopefully that'll change this year. Hold on one second. Okay.
We,
So
we
as
have
of
re-
last
we have
year,
re- we have recruited a couple that they have the volume. When they have the volume at KW, they'll, it'll be official, but
that's awesome. So that'll be a good thing. So and then since I've been there hasn't been an African American on ALC, which you have to be in the top 20% to interview, right? And then as of last year, and we haven't done a update to see, there were no African Americans on teams that weren't their own team. Like I'm saying, top level, the top 10 teams. There were no African Americans.
I believe there's one now, but
Okay, so that's good. We're making progress. So to answer that question, no. Okay, so your question to me is strategies to navigate. Is that
yeah,
what
I
you said?
mean, like, how have you been able to have the success that you've been able to have if it doesn't seem like it is as common, so to speak?
I think for me, I only drank half the Kool-Aid. I didn't drink all of it. So there are strategies that Keller Williams puts out that probably wouldn't work for me. So I didn't use those strategies. My personal strategy was a lifestyle strategy. So I looked at what I do on a regular basis in my life, right? And I catered my lead generation to those things. So I naturally do nonprofit work. I naturally go and do social events. I naturally, go to yoga or go to grocery store or go to political events. The things that I did naturally, those are the things that I did to generate business for myself, right? So I didn't pay for leads. My leads and my business is a referral based business. Okay. So I love on my core audience, my core fans, and they help me generate the leads that I need to meet my goals. So I don't Zillow advertise, I don't realtor.com advertise. I don't pay right now. I haven't had to pay for leads at this point in my career. So
Going through all the things that you've experienced, what advice do you have for agents that are just kind of getting into the business and or relaunching their business, whether it's relevant to being a person of color or not? What or tied to that, what advice can you give agents at this stage?
don't take it personal, right? Because the people that you care about the most will probably screw you over in a deal. So just don't take it personal, right? But you do have to rely on your core as a base for your foundation to start your business in most cases. So family and friends, marketing to them, touching on them, calling them, that's your core database. Then from there, you make a list like 50 people that you know, 100 people that you know. That's your core database. That's where you start. Those are the people, if they value, your work ethic, see you marketing yourself in whatever way you market, whether it's, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever else. Be consistent on there so that they know that you are doing real estate every day, right? And let them know that you're educated, right? So share information that they may not know. There's a lot of tools out there that you can use that give you the information to post. If you don't, want to create it, definitely you can use Command or, some of the other programs out there, but be consistent in your posting, be consistent in your touches and information and calls. And so you do 36 touch. It could be calls, it could be mailers, it could be emails, it could be newsletters, just building your brand, being consistent and touching people, and they'll start referring people to you.
Yeah.
But you got to be consistent.
Yeah, that kind of ties into what you were saying earlier, is you always came to work, right? Like you weren't like going around about your life and whenever the phone rang, you played real estate agent. Like you came
Right.
to work.
Right. I went to the office every day up until COVID.
Right.
Every day you could see me in that office in that corner, kind of computer every day. COVID hit, I still get up like I'm going to work, but I go to my computer in my, office or my kitchen, wherever it's at that time, but I'm consistent on that. But prior to COVID, I was there every day, whether I had something to do or not. And I, consistently did something, whether it was working on my database, calling people, researching, learning the market, whatever it was, those are the things that I was doing, even if I didn't have business. But for every day for the past 9 years, Monday through Friday, up until COVID hit, I was at that office every day.
Yeah, and oftentimes you were the first one here. Like, when I was coming in early being team leader, like first person I saw in the morning, I went straight to the coffee machine. You're sitting right there.
Yep. First one there, sometimes be the last one to leave.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
just consistency, and that's critical. And like I said, just finding out what's your niche, like what do you do in your life every day that can help you generate business? It's easier to do business with people that are referred to you than to do business with strangers. So if you can have a balance of strangers and people that are referred by somebody that knows and respects you, it makes the deal a lot easier. A lot of times when I get a referral, I don't even have to do a presentation. I don't even have to do a seller presentation, buyer presentation. It's a conversation in the contract,
Yep.
right? So
There you go.
building referrals is a good source of leads.
All right, you know what
I have
question I'm
some
going to ask you,
questions.
right? I got one more thing I want to make sure we cover today, and then we'll do some questions. So that's cool. You know what I'm going to ask you, right? Talk to us about your experience with Bold.
Okay. So I had not done Bold my first 7 years at KW.
Yeah.
Like I said, I drank half the Kool-Aid. I didn't drink all of it. So I wasn't doing Bold. This is actually gonna be my first family reunion.
Is it really?
Yes.
Slowly but
Yeah.
surely.
Yeah, so this is my first family reunion. But so I think 2 years ago was my first Bold. And I've done Bold probably four times since then though, right? Yeah. Last year I did it like 2 or 3 times. I might have done 2 times. Yeah, I did 2. So, Bold kind of pushes you to kind of rethink your business, look at what's working, what's not working, but also challenges you on your belief systems and, gives you some inspiration to take your business to another level. So I did Bold.
I remember I remember it slightly differently. Maybe I'm wrong. Didn't you go to Bold 4 or 5 years ago, and you took, as a result of going to Bold, you ended up taking like a long international vacation, right?
That wasn't 4 or 5 years ago.
It wasn't?
No, that trip was 2019.
To Japan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so wasn't there something happened the very
and
first?
Bold was in that no, yeah, Bold was in that year. So it was like what? April, May? Something like that.
So what I vaguely remember is I had to, oh my gosh, I had to lay it on so thick on you, Kim. And I finally got you to agree to go to Bold.
Yes, you did. Oh yeah, you hounded me.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So anyway, what ended up happening was she registers for Bold and she goes to the first session, and I come in the next day. She's like, I just booked my trip. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, I'm going to Japan for 2 weeks. I'm like, nice. You're going to Japan for 2 weeks. It ended up happening where like the last time that you took a trip like that was the last time you were in Bold, right?
Yes. So that was the first time. Yep.
So it's speak to the mindset, right? Like it only takes a little bit of time to start shifting the way you think. And when you think differently, you get different stuff.
Yeah, and you build different habits and build different mindsets. So yeah, out of that Bold, I said I was going to take a trip to Japan, and I didn't want to do Bold. Let me tell you why I didn't want to do Bold. And now that I remember it, because my son was in school, right? And Bold ended at what? 3:30 or 4:30.
I think it ended at 3:30 and you had to leave at 2:30 or something. You were trying to give
Yep, I
me
had to leave at 2:30, go pick my son up from school and bring him back to bowl and have him sit there for an hour, and Melody and Lucy would watch him for that hour. And my main excuse was, Bill, I do not want to do bowl because my son gets out of school at 2:20 and I got to go pick him up. And he said, well, just bring your son to bowl. And I was like, so that's what I did. I would leave at 2:00. I'd sneak out of the class, not sneak because me and Bill had that conversation and we had that agreement. I would leave, go pick my son up, bring him back. He would sit there for an hour and then I would finish bowl. So I made that commitment that, if Bill was all right with me bringing my kid back, then I'll do bowl. And that's what
I don't want to hear any excuses. Bring the kid, bring the dog. I don't give a damn. Just come. It's time to learn.
Yeah.
We're trying to build a business here. Like, no one's got a perfect life. Everyone's got distractions. I don't want to hear the excuses.
Yep. That's what happened. And they won't know, people won't know what your situation is until you tell them, right? I think we a lot of times are, so private and used to keeping things to ourselves, thinking that nobody cares, right? But if you honest in your truth and you're okay with, that, then you can have conversations with people and be honest and say things that, other people might not say, but it's your truth, right?
Yeah, and somebody, I could see this happening. So you bring your son back to Bold because you've committed to building your business for your family, right? And there's going to be somebody in that room that looks and says, well, what's that woman got to bring her kid in here for? And is going to make judgments on you. You know what? That person doesn't deserve your bandwidth, your mind space, right?
Yeah.
But there's also going to be a different type of person in the room. There's going to be a different type of person that is prepared to make an excuse like that. And maybe that's been their previous habit. And they see the commitment level that you've got and you've served as an example for them, right? And then they say to themselves, oh my gosh, if that woman can make a commitment, maybe I could make a commitment. And then all of a sudden they start thinking different. And then all of a sudden they start acting different. And then they start having more transaction, right? And then they're building a life by design and a business that they can be proud of. And they're showing their sons and daughters that what commitment's all about.
Yep. And then we made a commitment that we were going to Japan. He was like, okay. And that's what we did.
You didn't exactly pick the right week to go to Japan.
I didn't pick the right week to go to Japan.
There's a tsunami or something, right?
Yeah, it was super typhoon. We went though. We survived. We made it back to America, in one piece, but it was a little sketchy.
There you go.
Sketchy.
I want to be respectful of your time, Kim. Do you have a couple more minutes?
I do.
All right, perfect. Who has some questions for Kim?
I have one.
I have a question.
All right, let's go. Let's go with Ebony first. She's in the top right corner of my screen.
So, Kim, do you feel that when you were on a team like that, it gave you an edge as far as learning different people, different cultures, and how to transact real estate, in different ways, Yeah, that's my first question. Like, do you think that it kind of helped just, take your skill set to the next level? Like, of course, we have good and bads with everything, but the good of joining it, do you see that do you think it was beneficial to you some?
Okay, so that's a good question. I think it was two questions in there. So the first one, did I learn different things? So what I learned and what my goal was to learn from a team is how they became successful, right? How are they doing 50 million a year, right? So that's what I wanted to know. So by me going there, my goal was to figure out what systems they had in place, how they did their business, what programs and software and all that. What do they do? How are they doing 50 million besides just who they know, right? But they have been in the business 25 plus years, right? So they had a network of buyers and sellers that came to them regardless of any type of marketing. But what they did was they put Zillow in place, paid Zillow ads to generate the leads for the rest of the team. And the majority of their stuff came from referrals. So I learned their systems. I learned how they did business. I don't think I learned KW gives you all that other stuff, right? Like, the psychology of a buyer, all that type of stuff that you might need to learn how, what type of personality, all that stuff. KW gives you that. So for me, it was learning their systems, how they were successful, what they paid for, what they didn't pay for, what type of intake and outtake did they use? What did their assistant do for them? Those are the type of things that I wanted to learn from the business. So from that particular business. So yes, that was helpful to me and helped me kind of develop my systems for my business when I left there. As far as, just being on a team.
Before you go any further, did y'all hear all that? It's systems, it's models, it's processes, diving in, it's the details, it's the metrics, it's the lead gen. Like, this is a real business, right? Like, we should be dissecting almost every little detail of how everything happens. That's where the gold is.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, we all putting up Keller Williams signs, right? So either you got a luxury sign or a commercial sign or a residential sign. All the signs are the same, but what is the difference that gets them, gets their sign in the yards, right? So the majority of their business was referral for the most of the clients, and then everything else came through Zillow. But like I said, they advertised on Zillow heavily. They had a big budget for Zillow, and those leads were the leads that they generated to their buyers agents, and so that was what I wanted to learn. How did they build that company, and what made it so special, and how do you build a business like that? So that's what I wanted to get from a team. It wasn't how to do different business with different people, because the crazy part about it was, and I hate to go back here, but the majority of business that they gave me was the African American business. So when they had an African American client, give them to Kim. So the other business that I got was round robin, where it had no kind of intention behind it. It was just whoever was supposed to get that lead at that time, right? And then in that case, whatever you said to them when you called them was going to determine whether you got the business or not, right? Because you got like 1 or 2 minutes to make them feel confident that you know what you're doing and that you can help them with their situation and that you're knowledgeable on what they're asking about. And then that's how you close that deal. If you can close it, and you can close it quick.
So that
whoever answered the phone.
That sounds like scripts.
Yeah, scripts
and preparation.
Preparation, confidence in your voice.
Right.
Being direct, getting an appointment. That's what comes into play when you're dealing with somebody that you don't know, right? Because if they're on Zillow, that means it's 3 or 4 people that's about to call them, right? So you got to be able to engage them, capture them, and get an appointment quickly.
Yeah.
So
you got to get them smiling. You got to get them to trust you. You got to get them to answer some questions and get in front of them.
And get in front of them. Yeah. So that's what it was with the people that were not referred. If it was a not met, that's how you had to do it. So they had percentage of their business was, like I said, all Zillow or realtor.com, something that they were paying for. And then there were referrals. And the referrals that they usually gave me were the Black clients, unfortunately. Not to say unfortunately, but that's just what it was. So I dealt with that. And then I closed some of them other deals that I probably shouldn't have got, but I closed those too. So.
Yeah. One thing.
Not to say that'll be everybody's experience, because they were nice people. I don't know that I never even called them on that till late in the process, right? At some point I was just like, look, y'all. And then there were some things that were happening on the phone that I thought were inappropriate with the team dynamic. And I think that was probably, one of the reasons I decided to stay where I was at. So anyway.
Yeah. One thing I've always admired about you, and one thing that I think is probably the single most common trait in successful people, successful real estate agents in particular, is just the tenacity. Like, you're like, I'm going to get this deal done. I'm the right person to help, and I'm going to work harder than anyone else. And I'm going to show up every day, and I'm going to make more calls, and I'm going to, follow up with everyone, and I'm going to make sure nothing slips through the cracks, and I'm going to learn more than the next guy. I'm going to practice more than the next guy, and I'm going to study more than the next guy, and I'm going to take this business. I've always admired that about you, and quite frankly, that's among many reasons why you're sitting in the seat you're sitting in.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Bill.
Chantrell, go ahead. I'm sorry. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, there was a question in the chat. What
Oh,
were some of the, what were some of the things you didn't drink from the Kool-Aid? Door knocking. I don't door knock, okay? I don't. That's my personal opinion. I don't door knock. I don't think it's safe for me to door knock. I don't door knock, okay? So I never sat in a door knock class. Don't talk to me about door knocking because I don't think it's safe for me to door knock, and I'm not doing it. So that's one of the Kool-Aids I did not drink. Kool-Aid.
well, the
Don't-
beautiful thing that like I've told the group here is, look, you can avoid any lead generation strategy you want. That's not the right question though. The right question is what you're doing creating enough appointments? If I were to ask you, Kim, is what you're currently doing for lead generation giving you the appointments you need to hit your goals? You would say yes. If the answer to that was no, and we had exhausted every other option, then you might give some thought to door knocking, but you haven't had to go there. You buy
wouldn't
leads
have.
from Zillow before you door knock, wouldn't you?
I would.
Oh God.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think, like you said, you're teaching them all the different tools that they can use to help generate leads, and they all count, right?
Yep.
Door knocking ain't my thing, right? But I'm gonna make sure in non-COVID, I'm at 2 events a week, right? Now I'm on Facebook or Zoom at 2 events a week, right?
Right. And I
Or-
wouldn't be caught dead at 2 events a week.
Yeah, so you got to figure out what your kind of circle of influence requires, right?
That's right.
Mine requires me to do some events. Mine requires me to do volunteering. Mine requires, me to do thank you letters and, connect with people that I meet, follow up with them. So you just got to figure out what that kind of whole system or business plan is for you and your business and execute that on a high level.
There you go.
I have one
Chantrell,
more
I know you
question.
had- all right, let's
Go.
go to Chantrell first, and then we'll come back to you, Ebony.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I hear a lot of agents talk about purchasing leads. How do you do that? And it's not because I don't want to do the lead work. It's just I have a 9 to 5. So a lot of things I can't do. I can't door knock, cold call all day because as like now I'm sitting here waiting on my daughter to get out of school and I'm attached to a laptop. So how do you find leads? Like, how do you pay for leads? Because I think if I get one closing, my husband would let me walk away from my job. But right now, he's like, no way.
Okay, so let me say
So
this,
I just need
Chantrell.
one closing.
So what I'll answer that question in 2 ways, right? So the first way, let me say that you are not alone, right? The average realtor across the country sells 6 units a year, okay? So if you look at that as 6 units a year on a $200,000 house where you making 3%, that's $6,000. $6,000 times 6 units a year is $36,000 a year. Then if you give Keller Williams, they 30%, right? You making $18,000, right? So the average realtor needs a second job to get into real estate unless they have money saved up. And me and Bill have had this conversation a million times, and Bill's got his opinion on it, and I got mine. But at the end of the day, sometimes you need to maintain that job until not just one transaction, but you might need a couple more before you jump ship.
I'll give you
Right.
that. I agree with that completely.
Yeah, but not, me and you had a conversation. You're like, well, why are you in business then? If you don't have, I think you've softened up since some of those conversations. And, because it was, look, if you don't have 6 months savings before you get into real estate, don't get into real estate. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, look, Bill, that's not the situation for everybody. The average American don't have 6 months of savings.
I appreciate you softening me up.
Yeah, so you softened up on that. So, but what I would say is, if you don't have any leads, I definitely wouldn't buy them. I would say, look at your low-hanging fruit, right? You at your daughter's school. Your daughter is involved in activities at your daughter's school. Join the PTA. Join the, some club in there that's not expensive and, promote there. Like, look at the things that you already do on a daily basis to see where there might be some low hanging fruit where you can get a deal from.
Yeah.
Start there. And then
We
if not,
can't because of COVID. We're not even allowed in the schools. So we just sit here and wait on them to come out. We haven't been in the school since it started. So I can't even join PTA or volunteer or anything.
they don't do Zoom calls.
They're not doing anything.
I would look for people in bunches, right? Where can you, even online, where can you find,
Are your
where can
kids
you
in
offer-
activities? Like
No.
they're not in activities either? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right.
I always say there's only two ways to get a lead. One is to use your time and the other is to use your money. And if you don't
Right.
have the time, you got to use your money. Or you got to be more intentional about whether you're using your time properly. Hang on,
But
Kim,
if
hang on.
but Bill, if she hadn't done one transaction, I wouldn't
Oh,
say.
I'm not,
Okay.
I definitely do not want to advise you, Chantrell, buying leads. Now, buying leads for a couple $100 a pop, definitely not. Spending $10 on a Facebook lead accelerator, yeah, I would do that.
Yeah. And then I would say also look at opportunities to do open houses. That's free. You can do open houses in your neighborhood. If you see a listing, even if it's not a KW listing, but if it is a KW listing, all for it. But find some open houses that you can do. Posting, do the general, no, that's top 20%. No, that's
I'm
a
in the
good
top
question.
20% group all the time saying, hey, send me your open house opportunities.
Okay, cool. So I would say do some open houses, I know you're talking to somebody, whether it's on social media or chat or IG or somewhere. I would be posting,
Yeah.
educating people on what you're doing, and tell your story. I would do reels, tell your story. Look, I'm getting started in real estate. I would love to help you out, and just tell your story. The biggest thing now for people that is generating leads that are organic is to tell their story, build your community of people. You already probably got followers in one of these situations. You got to start telling them the story about what you're doing.
Right. And you could also be just how can you be helpful? Like you go on, like my wife's part of all these mom groups and all these kind of things. Like, how can you be helpful? People are like,
Yep.
hey, I'm looking for a dentist. Hey, I'm looking
It's
for a
so many
chiropractor.
groups that came out of COVID on IG, on Facebook.
Yeah.
Joining some of them groups, them business groups. It don't even have to be about real estate. It could be about jewelry making. It could be about sewing, whatever other hobbies you might have. Joining a group that's not related to real estate is a way to generate organic leads. And I'll give y'all one more jewel. In December, I joined Clubhouse.
I'm in there too.
Yep. You don't got to go in the real estate room. Go in the room about romance. Go in the room about, sewing, or go in the room about yoga.
But don't you have to be invited to that? Like,
Yeah.
Sue doesn't, because I wanted to do it, but it's just like, I need an invite.
You need an invite.
I invite you.
Somebody else can do it because I ain't gave them my phone. I haven't gave them my database. So I can't invite nobody because I'm not giving up my database. So somebody that can invite her, but I'm saying I have generated, and you find your tribe, right? So on some real estate stuff, I go in my tribe. That's the subconscious club, right? And I get up there and I add value on Atlanta real estate, right? But then I go into, they got a lot of real estate rooms. You can network with other realtors. There's a lot of them that want to do business in Atlanta. You can network with the wholesaler people because, they want access to buyers and things like that. That's an easy way to generate a lead. And if you got Clubhouse Sanchel, you should be on there trying to figure out how to make it work for you because it's leads in there. Okay.
Right.
I probably got, this year, I'm going to have a lot of business from Clubhouse, just from the connections that I already made with people said, you are my Atlanta realtor. Okay. So It's a way to generate business out of Clubhouse. You just got to figure out when you can get on there, be intentional about being on there because you can get caught up. Okay. And there's people talking about real estate every day. So you can learn in there, but you can also find leads in there if you become a moderator and, you know, add value.
I think the constant question is, if I've got limited time, like if you've got another job or something, that you've got to be so
Intentional.
aware of how you're spending your minutes, right? If you've got 15 minutes a day to give to real estate, the question is are you giving a full 15 minutes worth of effort, right? Are you studying the market? Are you looking up homes? Are you making 6 phone calls because that's all you can fit into the 15 minutes? Like, you got to be so disciplined about that, right? Because there is no like magic button for somebody that has another job. You just have to do the same amount of work in less time.
And that's a blessing to have another job because I started with no other job. It was a struggle. I've always been self-employed for most of my life. So me transitioning in, nope, I didn't have 3 months of savings. Nope. And it was a struggle. But I had to
Clubhouse
make
is
it work.
this app that all these youngsters use, Greta.
No.
I'm just kidding. You got to Google it. I haven't engaged with Clubhouse yet.
Clubhouse is a voice generated community. There's no visuals except for your emoji or whatever your photo is. Everything is voice generated. Conversations with people from around the world on different topics, but it's the topic that you choose, right? So it could be tech, it could be Bitcoin, it could be real estate, it could be sewing, it could be yoga, it could be meditation, it could be racism, it could be whatever. And depending on how you know, what interests you have, those are the type of conversations that will come to your phone or to your notifications for you to join. And if you want to join, you click the room and go in there and you can listen. And if you have something to say, you can ask to come up to the stage and speak. And then once you find your tribe, y'all can start doing your own rooms and even start your own club. So, but there's a lot of education on there from realtors around the country and the world. And then business people, branders, marketers, e-commerce, you name it. They on there educating people for free, coaching, free, but some of them want you to pay too. So not all free.
Gotcha. Okay, Ebony, let's have you ask the last question if that's okay.
Okay, you said that you did events. Where do you find these events at? I'm one of those people, I am social as they come. I'm just trying to find it. And I know, how do you find these events, like these real estate events? So you said you do 2 a week or something like that. I would love to do events a week. I just don't know where to get started at with finding the locations of these events to kind of get my name out there.
Pre-COVID or post-COVID?
Post.
Post-COVID, you can find all your events on Clubhouse now.
But you know what? You don't know that.
You can find all your events on Clubhouse. But so now, Clubhouse is in my formula, right? I'm very strategic on the events that I do now. So I still do charity stuff, and I, make sure it's safe, right? I don't do as many, in-person networking as I do, online. I joined some organizations, like I joined a realist association. So I'll go look at events on Facebook and stuff like that, or Zoom. It's more like membership type organizations now, because now that's where a lot of the kind of connecting is if you're a member, you got access to these different events and things like that. So I do a lot of those conversations on Facebook. I'll go to like Rolling Out is one of them, one of my friends. So I'll go when they open up a conversation on a different topic, I might go listen to that. Even just being in conversations online, engaging with people gives you an opportunity to connect, right? You might go in people's live chats, and you could be in there having conversations, right? I definitely went in Club Quarantine and connected with people in Club Quarantine, So it's like, it just, you got to figure out what's organic to you, right? And you might see somebody in Club Quarantine that you ain't seen in 10 years, but guess what? That gives you an opportunity to connect. right? So you just gotta, whatever it is that you do, figure out, engage with those people and make yourself, top of mind in those conversations. But it requires you to, conversate. It requires you to be engaged with people. It requires you to follow up on IG. If it requires you to follow up on LinkedIn, you can go in LinkedIn and, identify people and just reach out to them and start a conversation, right? It could eventually lead to a referral. It's I don't like, and I'll be honest, I'm more of an introvert, right? So I don't necessarily like going to talk to people, right? But it's something that you have to, it's something, if referral is going to be your main source of leads, which is 50% of most agents' main source is referral, then you're going to have to talk to people, and it don't have to be about real estate. It could just be about something else and y'all having a conversation. And then you can lead to some type of referral. But most conversations just start off as what people been doing right now, care calls, right? You do a lot of care calls, seeing how people doing, how their family doing, those type of conversations that you having with people. You don't even have to talk about real estate. Real estate really ain't sales, it's relationships. Okay, it's relationships. So you are building and maintaining relationships with people that could eventually lead you to a sale. It's not a quick fix. It's not a quick sale. Real estate it's a process. So engaging with people, showing that you care, adding value in any scenario, whether it's real estate related or not, that's how you get and generate business.
Cool. Thank
Hey,
you.
Bill.
Yes, Eric, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of just add my 2 cents.
Yeah, please.
I feel like maybe my experience might be helpful for just people who were in my shoes or are in my shoes. And Chantrell kind of speaks to what you were talking about. So my first year, I was working as a server, and I was working in real estate as well. And I think for me, I was just kind of going through and not necessarily taking inventory of where my business came from. But when I did take the inventory, most of my business came from referrals or talking to people in the restaurant. And so kind of like Chantrell, to your situation, what I did, like from the time that I started getting my license up until the point where I was licensed, and I'm a talker, so in person is my thing. So like I literally talked. That's it. And these people are people who have, we frequent the same places, so we develop some form of a relationship. Some form. Might not have been the biggest, but I can make people laugh. So I think that if you make somebody laugh, they kind of have a good thought of you. So everybody, to me, had a good thought of me. So when I start talking about real estate, now it's like, oh, okay, we'll give you a shake. So a lot of my business came from just purely that, just telling them that I was in the business. And when they hear that, now they're intrigued. Now they want to ask me stuff. And so now I'm answering their questions. And now we're kind of going down a rabbit hole of what they need in real estate and how I can be that person for them, basically. And then the other people is coming from like my very first deal. As soon as I got licensed, literally my cousin, who I don't talk to, don't have on any social media, hit me up because she got my number from my grandma, who I told I was going to get my real estate license. So, and then the highest dollar value home I sold was to my great aunt, who I hadn't talked to in a year or something like that. Because again, I told my grandma that I was getting my license, and so she had conversation with her sister saying Eric has his license, and now she reached out to me. I talked to her. So it is relationships, and for people like even myself who feel like it's hard, it's going slow, that's a testament to just kind of what we were talking about, the conversations. It's just about having the conversations where you can. Now, post COVID too, I'm struggling too, but Kim just gave us some insight on how to make that happen. So thank you.
This has been really, really great. It's always a pleasure to have you, Kim. Thank you so much for the gift of your time today. I suspect you would be available to those that have some additional questions, or maybe you're navigating some of the specific struggles that you have spoken about. Again, Kim is a leader in the office. We'll soon have her. Well, your picture's on the wall from last year. I'm excited to see what this group can do this year. If you want to be involved in helping with diversity and equity and inclusion in the Market Center and in the greater community, Kim is the appropriate point person. Thank you very much for your tips and strategies. And the extra 28 minutes that you gave us today. My hope is we kind of faded into the launch mastermind, but the purpose of a launch mastermind is really to talk about things that agents in that phase are dealing with, which is exactly what we did. We talked about lead generation and building confidence and growing your database and strategies for doing that. So I appreciate you being the kind of impromptu launch mastermind guest speaker as well. If anyone has some, Kim, Kim, what's the best way to reach you?
Kim Hutchens at kw.com is my email. Hutchens with an E. And on IG.
How do we get you on IG?
I am Kim Hutchens.
I love that. I am Kim
on Clubhouse. I am Kim Hutchens.
I am Kim Hutchens.
On Twitter, I am Kim Hutchens.
Man, that's nice branding across all your platforms. Okay, I'm gonna be I gotta hop off and go teach the GPS and 411 class for the Market Center. Thank you, Kim. Thank you everyone for participating, and have a great weekend.